Good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, and it's my delight to once again take you to a jeweler's workshop somewhere around Australia. And this week we're heading to sunny Adelaide, maybe not so warm, but sunny, let's hope. And even sunnier Katherine Grocott. Morning, Katherine.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to have you on board once again, Katherine. And this week we're going to go in a bit of a different adventure with you. We're going to use some Prismacolor pencils.
That's correct.
And we're going to colour copper with them.
Yes, we're going to be applying colour to copper. So this is a great way of being able to create amazing, colourful creations that might add to your repertoire of techniques. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that I am living, working and creating on the lands of the Kaurna people. And I'd like to acknowledge their continued spiritual connection to the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Katherine. Now, would you like to tell us a little bit about Prismacolor pencils?
Yes, let me get a little box of them for you.
A little box. Oh, that's a little box.
These are the reason why Prismacolor pencils are the best ones to use for this technique is because they have a much higher oil content. So it means that they kind of hold to the preparation, which is gesso, and they can blend much more nicely with the use of a little bit of terps. So yeah, these are the best color pencils. I've tried alternatives, everything from, cheap stuff from Officeworks all the way through to Derwent's. But these are definitely the best option that you have. Now, this is a 132 set box. I bought these about, 15 or so years ago when the cost of getting a box like this from the US was cheaper than getting about a 36 set in Australia. So if you are going to invest in something like this, it may be worth your while checking out some price comparisons and seeing what deals you can get. We did a little bit of a price check before we started, and this is worth about $199 at Officeworks today. So yeah, and the other thing is that they continue to release new colours. So at the time, 132 was the largest that they made, but since then, quite regularly they'll bring out new colours, regularly. And so this is the collection of new colours that they've added since I've bought that 132 set. But they are beautiful colours, very, very high in pigment, so very saturated with colour. So, yeah, they can give amazing results. So I'll show you a few samples. Now, I'm going to confess right up front, I am not an illustrator. I'm not a great drawer or, an amazing illustrator with pencils. But what I'm going to teach you today is the technique to get the groundwork and our foundation, like the technique for it, so that then you guys who are wonderful illustrators can go and use this to your heart's content. So yeah, these are some examples of some amazing artists that utilise this. Actually, I'm not showed up there.
Katherine, just to interrupt, do you have a lamp on there that might be giving us a little wave effect that we could turn off, or is it the lighting in the room?
That's the room. And unfortunately, with the lighting today, you won't see me at all in the dark.
Okay, we'll tolerate that. That's fine.
I don't know if I put this on, is that no, that's not any better.
No, okay. That's okay. Yes.
So we've got a number of artists who utilise this, mostly in the US. Prismacolor pencils are a US product. But you can see, like up here, this beautiful blending that's happening there, and it almost looks quite organic, all the way through to stunningly bright, colourful, amazing, abstract kind of work. through to some kind of just using a couple of colours and kind of blending them through. Then we've got this one up here. I mean, that in real life, that actually looks almost like a real leaf. But you can see how they've used just a little section cut out and then added it to a silver backing and made that into a brooch. Again, this one nicely riveted. If you've seen our riveting videos, they've used riveting, a cold connection, to be able to join that to a backing. Here you've got some just samples of different effects. So the wings down the bottom, I think, are stunning. But this little bird in the middle is quite realistic. So if you can illustrate realistically, there's some great options there. But you can also go quite abstract and simple with these techniques. And these ones have kind of used other materials and like a mixed media kind of effect. So there's some amazing possibilities with this. One of the best examples that I've ever come across was a lady who, she had actually made copper flowers and had coloured them in so that they looked real. So when it was on the neck, it actually looked like a collar or a lei of real flowers. It was unbelievably amazing. So great technique for those who enjoy playing with pencil, and a relatively cheap way of getting colour into your work. So
Katherine, just to interrupt, first I'd like to say hello to our online viewers. Jason just asked if he'll be able to watch this later. Yes, this will be on Facebook later for you to watch, Jason. And if there's any other people who'd like to introduce themselves by saying where they're from, around Australia or around the world, that'd be great. And also a question from me, how permanent is the result you get with the pencils?
What you do need to do is apply a fixative at the end. There is a danger that this could be, scratched off with wear or fingers or whatever. So a fixative over the top is the way that you make sure that it's secure. But certainly being aware that it is a surface treatment, you've got to look after it. This may not be the kinds of things that you're going to be wearing every day. This is not your, platinum and diamond engagement ring. This is going to be something that's a bit more special, and so therefore you might be wanting to think about where you utilise this technique. So something like brooches or necklaces or your earrings might be more suitable for this technique than rings that are more likely to get bang, damaged, scratched.
And Fiona's just asked, what fixative do you recommend?
There's a few. The ones that I would recommend are crystal clear or crystal coat, or there's another one called Krylon. So they're the ones that are probably the three best that I use or have used in the past.
Okay, thank you for the question there, Fiona.
Cool, thanks, Fiona. All right, let's get through to some equipment that you will need. So first of all, you are going to need some copper. So it needs to be annealed copper. So for those of you who, I'm sure there's an annealing video on AJS, but if you have never annealed copper, it's heating it up with a torch. It will go through like a oil slick stage where it's kind of changing colours, but then it will turn like a deep red and then a beautiful cherry red. The cherry red is what you're after. So once you get to cherry red, take the flame off it, quench it, pickle it, clean it up with a brass brush and some detergent, and dry it thoroughly. So you should end up with this kind of nice, shiny kind of effect. So some annealed copper.
Oh, sorry, Katherine, I just didn't have that on the camera. Apologies. Could you just show that again?
Annealed copper. So all nice and shiny, clean and bright.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You need 240 grit sandpaper. So if you use a stick or a block, something like that, whatever is most suitable to the piece that you're making. You need some good old isocol. That helps clean things up so that you haven't got any kind of residue of anything, dirty on your piece. You need some gesso. Now I'll hold that up to this camera. So gesso is like a preparation or a base for painting. So if you're an artist or a painter, you might recognise this as something that can be used to prepare canvases, but we're using it on the copper today. So yes, it comes in black and white, which of course means you can make grey. You then need some like paintbrushes to apply the gesso, and so paintbrushes, gesso, and for if you're doing any blending with terps. I've got a little tray over here. I don't know if you can see that. I won't move it because it's got like water and terps in it. So like a little paint tray that you can put your paint in, or some kind of water container and a terps container. You need your Prismacolor pencils, of course, and a heat gun or a hairdryer is helpful if you want to speed the process along, especially when you're drying the gesso. And then, of course, your fixative. So yeah, your crystal coat or your crystal clear. There's another product that I've yet to try on top of this, and that's base and copper clear. Now, this is great for when copper and brass is exposed. So if you've got any pieces of the copper that you haven't coloured and you're leaving that as metallic, that is a great, a lovely product for that. It leaves a tiny little more matte effect, whereas some of the other fixatives will be quite, nice and shiny. So, but I haven't tested this yet as to what it does to the Prismacolor pencils. So that's an experiment for the future, and seeing whether it can do both or whether it would just be kept for the copper, any exposed copper. All right, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
All right, so we've annealed the copper. So that's already done. And what we're going to be doing is creating a grain. We want to create something for the gesso to adhere to. If you have just a kind of a flat surface, you'll find that the gesso it's far too easy to just scratch off or scrape off because it hasn't got anything to grip. So what we're trying to do is create a scratchy effect so that the gesso has something to grip onto. So easy way of doing that is good old 240 grit sandpaper. And for this, you only need to go in one direction, just to create some scratches and some marks, some valleys and mountains to allow that allow the gesso to have something to grip onto. So give it a nice, good, thorough scratching so the whole surface that you need is done. Now, a little hint, if you're using this process, of course, once that pencil goes on, you can't change the shape of the metal. So if you are going to make those flowers like that lady did, then you'd want to do all of your forming first and do this as the very last process. So I'm going to do 3 samples today. So we're going to do the black, the white, and the grey. So scratch that up. If you are lucky enough to have a sandblaster, you can do this with a sandblaster. So that's, again, another kind of quick way of getting some some texture in this. Another option is, if you've seen the anodizing aluminium the etching aluminium demonstration, being able to etch copper, you could do that as well, and it will also create a bit of a stippled effect. But you've got to find the right chemicals for that. Your other option is this one here, a satin wheel that is very harsh. So kind of your scratchiest satin wheel. So don't know how loud this is going to be online, so let's give that a go. How bad is that, Peter?
It's not bad.
Okay.
Zoom actually mutes you a little bit. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So you can see that it's got a nice, oh, can you see? Yeah, it's kind of got a scratched, that kind of duller side there. So yeah, it kind of creates, again, some valleys and mountains, something for it to. So that's a nice, again, a nice quick way, but it needs to be that quite harsh, yeah, harsh grit, as it were, in the satin wheel. All right, so I've got our we need to do some cleaning first before we get to our gesso. So get some isocol and give I'm just using a little bit of paper towel here. So a little bit of paper towel, some isocol. Yeah, it's like rubbing alcohol. Yeah, if you can get a different brand. But yeah, kind of clean up your scratch side, and then avoid touching that again, so that you don't put any of your own like oils or fingerprints on that. So get that nice and clean. It also gets rid of any of the if there's any of the dust from giving it a scratch.
So I'd just like to invite our viewers, if they have any questions along the way, please fire away. Katherine will be only too happy to answer those. And does anyone out there have Prismacolor pencils at the moment? Jason shared that his 13-year-old daughter is right into Prismacolor pencils and is also showing an interest in jewellery making. So he's very excited about this video to get his daughter to watch it later.
Awesome. And
so a shout out to Jason's daughter, because she'll be watching this in the future.
Excellent. On you, Jason's daughter. But yeah, certainly if you enjoy working with these pencils, then this is just another way of utilising them. And certainly if you want any inspiration, yeah, kind of Instagram or Pinterest, and just write in Prismacolor pencil on copper, and you will find amazing, amazing work. Okay, so next we need some gesso. It's kind of, I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of gluggy. Yeah. So yeah, you don't need too much. Yeah, just like a little spoonful. Pop it in your tray. And what I'm going to do is just like do half of that into another one to make up some grey.
So your tray is just out of shot there, Katherine.
Yes, it's kind of going to be a little bit difficult to see that because it's got water and oil in it. If I turn it around about, I get that. If I get that in there, how does that look?
We've got your
work.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got some white, and we'll get a little bit of black out as well. Now you don't want to thin this down too much. If it's too runny, it's not going to stick and be a good enough base. But nor do you want it, kind of too thick. Let's put a intensity in there. And we'll mix that up later. All right, actually, close the lid on that. And now we get to the painting stage. So if you've got a nice wide paintbrush, that will help kind of spread it around quickly. So yeah, I've got a little bit of water. And I'm just adding just a tiny amount to the gesso. Now, in applying this again, we want another layer of kind of ridges on the top of this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to paint in one direction first. We're going to let that dry, and then we're going to paint in the other direction. So at a 90-degree angle. So we get a base coat down. And you want it fairly even and smooth. So without kind of the streaks or, the copper coming through. So yeah, just a nice even coat, but all in one direction. So we've got a white one there, ready to go.
So can you do this on other metals as well?
I've never tried it on any others. Yeah, possibly because this is the technique that I was taught. Mm-hmm. However, in our etching aluminium video, we explored using Prismacolor pencils on the aluminium. But for that, because the etching creates such a lovely, a lovely surface on the bottom, you kind of don't need this base. It's already just so grippy with the kind of chemical reaction. So I've now got the black, and I'm going across in one direction. One direction, and then we'll do a mix. Hopefully by then the white will have dried, but if not, out comes the heat gun. Now, on this very, on the very back of this, there's a tiny little remnant of some texturing, some hammer texturing that I've done on a previous sample. So again, you can use some texturing on the copper, and that can give a different effect. And now we'll mix the two together and we'll get a grey. Sorry for my arm across the screen here. Given where everything is on my bench, it's like, I'm sorry that you guys are copying fabric. So now, oh, this is off screen, off camera. So I'm, I don't know if I can. Which
one do you want us to use?
That one. There we go. How's that?
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, a little bit of grey in the corner there. So I'm mixing the two together to get a grey. And again, you can mix this to any level of grey that you want, that's going to kind of add to your work. So that, yeah, a couple of the pieces that I showed you in those pictures would definitely have been done on either black or grey backgrounds to give that kind of depth of like mutedness and darkness to the colours. So all nicely mixed. So we've got a nice grey. Move that out so I don't spill everything. And we'll go grey. Okay, so we've got our piece and we're going to apply some grey.
So this is essentially our undercoat, is that right? For our pencils?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like an undercoat. Yeah, or is it called sizing in painting, where you prepare the canvas? I'm not sure if that's the right term. But yeah, it's getting that, it's the preparation to put your top layer of colour on. All right, so we've got one direction done. Pop that down. And let's see whether, let's turn my hand around. Let's go left-handed. Okay, that white is not dry yet, so let's blast it with a heat gun. Now, for those of you who are listening, this will be loud. So if you want to kind of turn yourself off.
Yeah.
So
Zoom will look after that, Katherine. Yeah, you'll be fine.
All right, let's just clean up that paintbrush. Okay. Cover your ears, everybody. Yes, I'm just giving it a little bit of heat here just to dry off that layer so that we're not spending ages and ages waiting for this to dry. And while I'm here, I may as well do the other colours as well. Now, you'll know that it's dry because it will look matte. So rather than being like shiny or kind of wet looking, it'll go this nice kind of matte, dry appearance. All right, so we now have to do our second coat, and yeah, 2 coats is all you need, but going in the opposite direction. So this time we're going at 90 degrees to the first. A little bit of paint. Off we go. So for the first one, I went this direction. The second one, I need to go this direction. And be aware that your copper might be a bit warm if you've just hit it with a heat gun. And once you get that second layer on, you really do want it to be nice and even coating. Keep going until you get a nice kind of streak-free look. Now, see if I can pick this up now. Try not to get your fingerprints on it. Got a bit more control now that I'm holding it. I find that the white is of course, the most difficult to get looking even because it's the palest colour, and it's more likely that the copper will show through. So spend your time getting this kind of looking good so that your finished effect will be nice as well. The whole preparation is key. So yeah, nice long strokes across the whole thing. So hopefully that, you can see that's looking nice and, yeah, nice and flat. Pretty even. All right. We'll give get the arm out of the way. We'll get the black and the grey on, and then we can start doing some drawing. Okay, so we've got a little bit of water. Let's get some black. So for this one, the first time I went acrossways, this time I'm going lengthways on this rectangle. And being a lot more kind of opaque, the black tends to kind of go on quite nicely, and yeah, it's much easier to get a nice flat finish with the black. Alrighty, so nice, even there. Oh, there's a little bit up there that I've missed in the texture. All right. And black down. And then finally we'll finish off our grey. Bring these in with their white, our black, and now our grey. Yeah, try, as long as it's, you know, nice and dry, yeah, your fingerprints shouldn't affect it, but yeah, still try to avoid yeah, kind of touching the surface. So this time I went acrossways. I'm now going to go up and down with this one.
So Katherine, I assume that when you use a particular pencil on each of those pieces, the white, the grey and the black, they'll come up with it as a different colour. Right?
That's right. Yep, you'll get a slightly different effect. So the white will keep the colours kind of nice and bright and vibrant. The black kind of darkens it all down, and the grey gives much more of a muted effect. So once we've got these dry, what I'll do is I will illustrate each one in exactly the same way so that you can see the kind of difference. All right. Those, and they need some drying. So here we go again with the heat gun.
What happened there on your right-hand side one?
Now you might just see I probably hit that a little bit too hard and it started to bubble. So yes, keep an eye on your heat. You'd want to avoid any bubbling, and that can it means it's kind of lifted off the base plate because it's it's gotten too hot. All right, so we will then start doing some colouring. Now, you do not want to press very hard with your pencils because you will end up, potentially like scratching the gesso off. So you want to be kind of, a bit more gentle in your approach. So I'm going to do some blending of different colours. So I've got 3 blues here that we can use to create this this effect with the blending.
So Katherine, Fleur just asked what was the paint you were using on the copper. Could you just remind us?
Oh, it's gesso. So let me hold it up again.
I'll just bring up that camera. Hang on a second.
So this is gesso. This brand is just like a cheap one from like I think it was Eckersley's Art Supplies. But you'll be able to find gesso, white or black, in art supply places where you live. All right, now, a little hint for working with Prismacolor pencils with this kind of setup is working from light to dark. If you go dark to light, it will tend to just kind of bleed and blend. So if you want your distinct colours, working from light to dark. So this first thing, we'll just do a little bit of blending. Oh, sorry, let's get that into camera. Let's start with the lightest colour. And as you can see on the white, I mean, that's quite a bright blue there. So we'll, and you can begin to see, can you see? You can begin to see how the ridges then kind of affect how the colour goes on. And when you start to blend it with the terps, that will then kind of even that out so that the ridges won't be as obvious. However, if you texture your copper, like this one, you can actually see this has been roller printed with, I think just some, like the old, the bags that you used to get for like oranges. Yeah, that kind of mesh, kind of fruit bag, mesh fruit bag. Yeah, so that's been roller printed with that. And because of the texture, you can really highlight the effect with this technique. So if you want a little bit of texture underneath, so that you highlight that, that is definitely possible. So now going to go to a mid blue. Actually, let's do the light blue on all of them. So we've got, let's move those all over so that you can see. So we've got the light blue. And you see, this is more like, on the black, it's more like, it gives the effect of like working on a chalkboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing how bright it comes up on the black.
Yeah. It really can look quite intense. And quite, like it's got a lovely contrast to it. And then on the grey. So this, I don't know if it turns up on the camera very well, but in real light, this looks like the most vibrant blue. This has still got brightness to it, but it's that kind of, the contrast of the colours. Whereas this is kind of more muted. It's kind of, brings it back in colour. So we'll go to a mid blue. do that on each. And I'm just going over both of, like a little bit of the first colour. And then the grey. And depending on the colours that you use, again, they'll be affected differently. And then we'll go a nice dark blue. This is a dioxazine purple hue. Everybody's interested. So we've got like a
That's a nice sharp one, Katherine. Has that ever been used before?
That actually, I don't think I have used this one before. This is yeah, this one's a quite new pencil actually. It's always fun seeing the new colours that they bring out, but I don't get to use them very often. Okay, so then if you want to start blending, yeah, a finer brush with a little bit of terps. So again, I've got probably like a little lid full of terps in my little tray over here. And you can start to kind of, yeah, mix those colours. Now, is that coming up? Yep.
Yep.
So again, starting from the lightest and blending through. So it's almost like you begin to work with paint. Yeah, and blend that through. So again, you do need to experiment with your pencils because every single one, because of the different pigments, yeah, depending on the ingredients, will respond differently. So absolutely play with, yeah, with your colours. So I'll clean off my brush before I go to the next one because I'll be starting at the lightest colour again. So blending. And you can begin to see the colours just kind of, yeah, bleed and move into each other. And you can also see that there's not as much kind of ridge effect here. Now, you can also start to build that colour up. So you can kind of rework things. And if you want that colour a bit brighter, you can add more to it. Yeah, and then you can, this sometimes, depending on the pigment and which colour it is, this will sometimes completely get rid of any of the brush strokes as this kind of begins to work the pencil colour in. And again, it starts to, yeah, blend in with the previous layer. So you can see how those kind of quite nicely begin to blend. And
if you could just tilt that forward a little bit, Katherine, just that one you just held up then, just put a more of an angle. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah, we might give something a go. We might do my famous little flower. That's one of the few things I can actually. I did tell you I'm not an artist. Yeah. Give our little flower a centre. We should have an online vote of which colour I should use for the flower. Let's go our brightest pink. What's this one?
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
yeah.
Neon pink. Actually, I think with some of their releases, there was a number of neon colours. So yes, we've got a neon orange as well. So yeah, it's one of the fun things.
Now, does this pink and yellow flower actually exist?
Yeah, let's just say this is completely and utterly my imagination. We'll leave it to the amazing botanical artists in the group to do accurate representation.
It's Grocottius Catherinus.
And again, you could do something nice and, yeah, simple like that. You might go, yeah, kind of graphic dots. You might decide to do something, yeah, get some stripes and lines happening. So a dark green for a stem, some leaves. Yeah, on the black you can see this dark green almost, it almost disappears. But that neon pink, so bright in this first, oh, can you see the bright pink? Yeah, it's very, very bright on mine. But on that black, that pink is quite muted, and that the green almost disappears. On the grey, yeah, the pink actually turns up really nicely on the grey, but that green, yeah, a bit more, much more muted. Maybe a little bit of pale green grass. So yeah, the pale. I do think some of the pale colours kind of really pop on the black.
Mm.
And that pale green, you know, kind of comes up quite brightly on the grey as well. So yes, we've got the beginning of some, yeah. This is where you guys, you go to town. Yeah, with your colouring and testing and playing. You can make things, yeah, graphic, abstract, you know, using just bold shapes and bold colours. You can get quite, you know, with something like that, just a childlike, you know, impression of something that can be fun. And you can go all the way through to, you know, kind of realistic, yeah, pictures. So from there, you might want to start experimenting with other things. So you can see this sample here. You've got the Prismacolor pencil is on this side. This one here is actually Posca pens. So Posca pens are a water-based, like a water-based but paint type texture. So yeah, this one has been around for ages and is quite, yeah, I've had this little sample for a number of years now. But yeah, that still is kind of coming up nice and bright and strong. This one in the middle, that was nail polish. But as you can, oh, I don't know if you can see, it's begun to like separate in its colour. So it's got the like the pink colour on the top, but there's this kind of like almost like the it's almost like the chemical has begun to split, and there's this kind of yellow, yeah, residue on the outside. So that shows that kind of, yeah, some products may not last, you know, the distance. And this orange here was some oil-based paint, you know, just dropped on. So yeah, getting this base down means you can start to play with some other things. Once your work is completely done, you can then heat set it again. So that will help to make it a little bit more, a little bit more robust. Give it a little glass. And then you would take that, once you're completely finished, take it outside or in a very, very well ventilated room, or a spray room if you have one, and then you can apply your fixative. So for the fixatives, follow the manufacturer's instructions. Most of them, 1 to 2 coats is usually enough, and they usually require a little bit of, like, they have to be dry in between. So, you know, sometimes it's a 10-minute wait, sometimes it's a 2-hour wait, sometimes you might have to wait overnight. But yeah, just follow the manufacturer's instructions for the fixative. Okay.
So, Katherine, if you're creating a piece of, say, a pendant or some earrings or whatever, do you do it on the flat piece first and then cut it out or whatever?
Yeah, you can. So for some of the pieces that I've made, I've actually done like big samples like this and just coloured them in abstractly. And then I've cut it out, drilled in some holes and riveted onto either silver or acrylic backings to make pendants. And just space them out so that you had something to thread through. Alternatively, if you're making any kind of formed shape, like if it's domed or curved or anything like that, you would definitely do that first. So yes, cutting out, that's not too bad. You've just got to be gentle with fixing up any of your edges. So be aware of, kind of, once you cut, use a finer grade sandpaper to fix up your saw blade marks, so that you don't affect any of the paint or the gesso or the Prismacolor pencils on the top. So just, yes, be aware of how you're working. But yes, if it's flat, you can cut it out afterwards.
So depending on the job, but it may be better to cut it out first and then work on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, that's kind of like one of those design decisions that you have to think through what's going to be the best, best way of putting this together. So kind of think through, if I put this on at one layer and then I've got further steps, will any of those steps then affect what I have drawn? If they're going to affect it, then rethink the order of what you're going to do so that this is going to be affected the least amount as possible. Any other questions?
I'll put that to our audience. If you do have a question there, please fire away for Katherine. But I think you've given us a great introduction. They're tremendous pencils, Katherine, and I was amazed at the vibrancy of the colour that comes up there. So you can see, you just given us a little entree, and you can just let your mind run wild as to what you could do.
And definitely check out Pinterest and Instagram, because there are some amazing artists, people that I will never be able to emulate. They have got such skill, and such a wonderful eye for colour and balance, and who can also, they can see things and they can replicate it in pencil, whereas those stick figure people, I'm good at those. Get inspired by some of the amazing artists that you can find online and who do this work just so beautifully. I can give you the base. Go to them for the people who, for the inspiration.
No worries. Katherine, Fleur has said, Prismacolor have a range of pencils. Which ones are these? So are there various styles, like you mentioned, the neon ones?
Oh, and yeah, these are the Premier. Yeah, very good. Yes, they're not watercolor or anything like that. It's their Premier range. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
Would you like just to hold up that tin again?
Yeah, let me get that in so that
I'll just change over.
Yeah, Prismacolor Premier. Oh, that's just not in focus, is it? If I could put that under, does that pick it up?
PREMI. I feel like I'm doing an eye test.
PRISMACOLOR, and then Premier. Yeah. Of course, felt American, you know. Oh, and just a little thing we found out today that most of them are made in the US, but just up the top, if they're not, they're made in Mexico, and that will be stamped on the pencil. Yes, Premier, their Premier range. Yeah, lots of, basically an oil-based pencil with a lot of pigment. Yeah.
No, that's great.
There is a way of doing this without the gesso. For that, you don't actually sand the copper. You leave that completely, completely flat. You heat set the pencil, and you use the fixative only if you want it to bleed. So it will actually blend. So that technique is a little bit different, but yeah, the fixative is actually what is going to kind of blend it, and it won't. With this method, the pencils will stay as they are when you apply the fixative. If you don't use the gesso, the fixative will actually begin to blend the pencil together. Personally, I found this more successful than the other method. So this is why I decided to show you this method. It just seems to have far better results for what I do. Any other questions from our lovely people today?
Fleur said thank you for your response to her question about the range, and I think that's probably it for the moment. So, Katherine, we'll wind up there. So thank you for introducing me and all the others online to the Premier range of Prismacolor pencils, and we'll look forward to seeing you sometime in the future.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this little adventure into adding some colour to a metal. Thanks, guys. Bye.